Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Luke from A Taste of AZ. Today on our podcast, we've got Chef Cory Oppold. He is such an innovative chef and he's super technical. Let's jump into it.
So our guest today is none other than the man who defeated my favorite chef probably on Chopped.
Oh yeah, the camera. She's awesome.
You know, though, I gained another new favorite food personality in the meantime, Mr. Cory Oppold. Dude.
Thank you, man.
Thanks
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And thank you for following our suggestions on the earbuds with the microphone, man. You are set up, man. I like that.
I did. I had to be down. I'm like, I don't want to look like an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or so, it's like when you FaceTime your grandma and you just see your forehead or her forehead.
You know? Exactly.
So, well, no, man, that was my first, the first time I'd heard of you and you know, the things that you do. And I was real excited for Tammy and love her. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. There's another Phoenix chef on here. And then by the end of it, I'm like, well, I love this dude too. So when you won, I was okay with that, man.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Where did it start? Because you're not from Arizona, right?
No. So yeah. So basically, I'm from super small town in Illinois, dairy farm boy. But I moved out here initially in 1998 to go to architectural school. In high school, prior to even leaving Illinois, I was, excelled pretty well in math and art. And at that time, I had no idea anything about the food world. I mean, I probably made, a couple of ramen noodles when I was that age, and maybe a Schwann's Man pizza here and there, but that was pretty much it. Schwann's Man.
I'm a Midwest guy, dude. I grew up in Ohio, so I know that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, like when I moved out here, it was initially just for architecture. And my first year out here, I slowly oh my, there's a lot more to the world than just dairy farms and architecture. You know what I mean? I got exposed to the food world. And at that time, it was in 1999. I went to Wrights at the Biltmore. At that time, they were pretty, prestigious and high end. And I went there and ate, and I'm like, it was actually a steamed halibut dish, and I think it had a broth of fumet and vegetables, and it was just beautifully plated. And ever since I had that, I was immediatally hooked. And then one of my a little bit after that, I started finding myself buying cookbooks and a little less of the architectural and then more into the culinary.
From this one experience.
The one experience, yeah.
Wow.
And it was more it just kind of opened my eyes. It's more, food's just more for just nourishment. It can be an art form or something that's more of an experience.
Yeah.
And it opened my eyes. And then one of my friends is you're fading away from the architects. So why don't you just go to culinary school? And then, before even stepping foot into a kitchen, I'm like, all right, I'll just go to culinary school. And I did.
I guess so.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It was not I mean, if you think about it, it's not a very educated, decision to make, but it was, it was something that I knew I wanted to do. And, it kind of helped. It panned out. So it was fun.
Was there anything about architecture that was it? Because for me finding this path that I was meant to be on, it was a combination of finding some things I was really interested in and also extremely disliking the other things I was doing. So did you have a taste of architecture and this was just so much greater, or was that kind of falling too?
I think I didn't really have the taste of architecture quite yet. I think it was just more I'm enthralled with building something.
Yeah.
And I want it to be something that's tangible in a sense where hey, you look at it hey, I built that. And so that's where I've always been fascinated with that whole aspect of something. But it was more, and also, just the building of ideas is always now we're finding now, especially nowadays, it's the building of an idea is even greater than anything. But it was just more that, and just wrapping math and art into this whole equation. And then obviously, with science, I love science as well, that the whole thing was meant to be, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for that intersection of all of those things to create what you do.
It was fun. Yeah. It's still fun. It's crazy. You learn every day about something.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think that, so growing up on the dairy farming, what how does that impact what you do? Because I mean, obviously I've seen the things that you make, and when you say that you were a dairy farmer and you grew up on a farm, like, okay, the focus on vegetables and colors and stuff. Where does that connect?
I think the whole connection with, I definitely grew up with a respect for food. And even with that respect, I was behind the scenes also with how much work goes into delivering or producing that type of food.
Yeah.
So there's always that big respect with the farmers and their crafts itself. But it was also, I grew up, I mean, I didn't really know how I grew up until I left there.
Yeah.
And you appreciate it so much more. You're like, man, I have to pay this much for, on beef at the store. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
When we would take our own cattle to the market, and that's what we had. And we would, have a whole, cattle in the, one steer in the freezer down in the basement, and that's kind of the way we grew up, where it was like we had all the bits and pieces on our farm that we had. Like everything from the butter to the milk to the beef to the vegetables. We pretty much had it all. It was really cool. And then the Schwann's man came in and changed our life forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they gave us, but that kind of grew up. That kind of mentality definitely shaped and made it more of a tangible thing when I went to culinary.
Yeah.
And the teaching of, like, the hard work and, the more time and, dedicate yourself to, if you're going to do something, just be damn good at it, just dedicate yourself completely to your craft. Was a huge thing, teaching on the farm as well.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful the way I grew up. I really am.
Yeah.
There's a learning.
Well, it's that, I think that's, Luke and I have had several conversations about like what we love about, initially about craft beer and now getting into the food thing is just people's just dedication to do it. Right. It's about creating something that's amazing. That's right.
Exactly.
Right. I left something I didn't really like, or whatever reason it is, their dedication is towards excelling at that, really.
Exactly. And it's always like one of those things, we want to leave something behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to you want to, I don't know. That's just like one of the biggest things of, like, that's the biggest thing you can achieve to, is leave something behind that somebody else will remember.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the neatest things about it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because coming from the Midwest, both of us, there's that, I don't know about you, but I've always had this creative streak of like, man, I want to create things. I want to, like you said, I want to build things. I want to put things, you combine that with work ethic, that imaginative, that creativity with work ethic, because it doesn't always go together. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the creative process, I mean, that part, like, I don't know. I was always kind of a weird child though. Like my mom was like, what the hell is wrong with this kid or something?
Like what? What? Tell us some of the weird shit.
Like,
you did,
I
man.
would be very like into, like, just, I don't know. I would always venture off and like build something and like be completely fine, like just being alone for like 8 hours of the day.
Yeah.
I would find a way to entertain myself. And on the farm, it was safe. It was very safe. Like, it was just a large property, but we couldn't go too far, of course.
Yeah.
They just let me just go off in my merry way, and I do, stupid stuff, and I would just keep myself entertained. But I always remember being like somewhat very creative in the process of, like, keeping myself entertained. And then, I don't know, it was just one of those things. And I think it kind of like definitely translated into, eventually in the culinary side of, like, the creative process of designing or building, or not even just the dishes, but like to ideas of, restaurant avenues and, different little things. But
yeah,
it's always been one of those processes that, that's the funnest thing, is the creative process.
Yeah.
So growing up on the farm, I mean, you were, I'm sure, surrounded by all sorts of technical knowledge, like how butter is made and, the process of creating milk. And I'm sure you had all sorts of other fruits and vegetables, I would assume, at least on the property. But you hadn't had that kind of pivotal moment that pushed you into cooking yet, or at least the fine dining, very experimental cooking. Were you still soaking up a lot of that technical information back then? And was kind of that process beginning before you realized it?
Well, yeah, a lot of that process, like, I didn't know exactly how much I knew until I got into the restaurant world of it. Like the whole thing with the, we always made our own sauerkraut, stuff like that. So kind of like looking at that fermentation process and like looking at it now. Obviously, I researched a lot more now and able to look into it a little deeper. But it's like all those little things that, like, oh my God, that's exactly how my grandma made it, and that's why she made it this way. without even knowing, all the things on on blogs on searching on the web, my grandparents already knew it that way. So that's always been kind of like a neat thing, like where you can see your daily experiences and how your past come together is kind of a neat thing for me.
It's one of those like, oh shit moments, right? It's like, oh
yeah,
shit.
exactly.
That's why I learned like that's why I was at that job for 2 years, to learn this particular part of life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that part is, and they always say everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm, huge believer in that.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, I think this was definitely the way it was supposed to pan out, I guess.
So you say, forget this architecture stuff, I'm going to culinary school. Is it the kitchen nightmare that you see on TV of like chefs throwing knives at each other? And
oh, it was crazier than that, because I mean, like I said, I went to when I was in culinary school, I did, as long as you study and you do exactly what you're told, you'll do well.
Yeah.
And I guess that's anything in life, but when I stepped foot into my first kitchen, was a different point of view. And that kitchen at the time, in this would have been 2002, I never stepped foot in the kitchen before. And this was my first professional kitchen. And at that time, they called it an internship or externship in a sense. And the chef I worked under, he was to this day is my mentor, Ivan Flowers. But he is just, he was, he wanted you to learn the right process, the right way the first time. He was very difficult to work with, in a good way though. At the time, it seems like a horrible way, but now that I look back, I'm like, man, that's exactly why he taught me the way he taught me. And it was just a crazy process. But every day I would screw up so bad that I thought he was going to fire me every day for 6 months. And it's like that part of your stomach where you're almost like throwing up before you even step foot into work. Yeah. That's what it was for me for like 6 months straight. It was crazy.
Dude, that's adversity though, right? That's getting punched in the face, man.
Yeah. And I was going to leave. And actually, there was a part when I walked onto his office and said, hey, I'm probably not cut up for this. And he's like, no, just keep going, keep pushing. And I listened to him, and I did. And then it was more eventually one day, it was probably like a year later, one thing that it just clicked. And it's kind of like I didn't need to look at recipes anymore, because it's like, that's a lot of the problems with culinary students, is they everything's so recipe ingrained that all they find value in is those words, and not the process inside the words, not the techniques. And so it's just like one day it finally clicked, where I'm like, okay, this is why we know there's techniques, there's no more words. And that's when I started developing my own style in a sense. So it was kind of cool. It was a neat thing.
Oh shit moment number 2 for Cory.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it was a neat process, and it's just it was weird, just the way it, like, all of a sudden it was like one day.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that, so I was, for 9 years, I was an online academic advisor for an online college, on the phone. And awesome. I hated 8 years and 9 months of it pretty much. but that was one thing. So it was an interesting job, because my job was basically helping adults who had almost completed a degree, help them finish their degree. So it was a very unique position within the company. But I completely just lost my thought. I had a good question too. Sometimes I go so off on left field that I forget what I was talking about. Luke, you can edit that out, right? But no, I got it again. So one of the things that the students would, I don't know, the kickback that they would give me was like, hey, I don't understand why I need to understand, need this degree to do this, or need to do this. Like, I can memorize all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not about memorizing. It's understanding the concepts behind something so you can apply it in multiple situations confidently. Right. And that sounds like that's what you're talking about, right? Is not following that strict 1 1/4 teaspoon, but more of like, here's why you're putting that amount in there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's learning the process and the technique, because every scenario is going to change from every day to every kitchen to every state to wherever you go. Yeah. So as long as you learn the technique and the process, you can apply it to, hopefully one day you apply it to your own way of, trying to explain yourself. Yeah. And that's what food is a way for us as a chef. That's like our language. That's how we like to explain ourselves. During the summer, the way I feel during the summer with lighter vegetables is different than how I feel during the fall when everything's, you know, a little bit colder and you want some fattier substances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what, you know, it's definitely a language. So.
How was it from, just, I guess, growing up and being like a normal person before you were the super chef, right? But no, like just growing up, like the just normal, food preparation techniques to now you're in this place and you're learning these, very complicated techniques. What was that adjustment like?
Are you talking about like from going from the farm or from like my earlier culinary stage to?
I guess going from the farm, like going from, yeah.
From going from the farm, like I always try to like relate back to it, and my palate always relates back to it. Like I love comfort, and that's how I, even though I like to make intricate plate ups, like when you taste them, there's always gonna be some sense of like, oh, okay, I know this shit. You know what I mean? There's a sense of familiarness to this dish. And I think the Midwest has a lot to offer because we have a lot of like dishes that, the pairings and the flavors tie very well. And a lot of people, like a lot of dishes came from the Midwest, I believe. And it's just one of those cultures that I think has gotten around in the US. But like I always like to tie those familiar flavors and then profile them into like the way I like to cook. Because the way I like to cook, I mean, I like to eat that style maybe once a month, but I don't like to eat that shit every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd rather have a chili cheese dog, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Half the time. But a chili cheese dog is not what I want to cook for a living, you know? I mean, I would love, I mean, as long as I could do it on the side, of course, but like fine dining is just definitely one of those aspects. I love the art integration, the experience that the diner is feeling, everything from the visual to the flavor profiles to everything they experience, which is kind of something I like. So, but yeah, definitely like integrating a lot of those childhood flavor profiles is definitely how I like to relate and show, people the way I did grow up.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
And then put into a beautiful presentation too, man. Your plates are beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That. And where did you go from? So you go to culinary school. Now you're working with Ivan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where did you go from there?
So from there, I worked all the way up from not knowing a damn thing in the kitchen and almost, puking every day and almost quitting to eventually became his, his sous chef to his executive sous chef. And then in 2007, he was leaving Different Point of View. He was going to go up to L'Auberge up in Sedona, and he was going to be the executive chef of the property. And then he later approached me like a month in. He's like, hey, would you be interested as well to be the chef de cuisine up there? And I said, yeah, for sure. I mean, Sedona was beautiful. And so going from, a dinner-only restaurant and a property at the Hilton that Different Point of View was, and going into a new beast of an animal that L'Auberge was, it was crazy process, but it was a very eye-opening. I learned so much, from breakfast, lunch, dinner, room service, banquets. It was endless.
Wow.
But it was a neat process. Super.
Well, that's a good. Those are good. I mean, dipping your toes in all those different areas, right? Because and that kind of explains like some of the things that you do at this point, right? Is probably influenced by that experience with catering and buffet style and things like that, right?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean everything that because I also like right now I do like the things like morning wood is my my multi-course breakfast thing that I do. It's like a pop-up, so it's like
Morning wood.
It's called Morning Wood.
Yeah.
The first one was at Chula last year, Chula Seafood.
Oh yeah.
Uptown last year, but it's like all these little things that you learn and you like to apply them to like all these little different avenues.
Yeah.
But I learned so much at L'Auberge. It was an eye-opening process for sure.
Did you get to live in Sedona, or did you have to?
I did.
All right. That would make a big difference, right? If you had to drive there. Yeah.
It was crazy. Like it was, the first 3 months were amazing. You know what I mean? But then after a while, you're like, shit, these red rocks just aren't as red anymore. You know what I mean? So you're like, all right. So then after a while, you're kind of like, nah, I kind of miss the hustle and bustle of the, I wouldn't say that Phoenix is a crazy town, but it's definitely more alive than Sedona would be.
Yeah.
So after a while, like, it definitely from, 2007 to 2009, I was up there. But then I wanted to get back down here, and actually I bought a home down here prior to even leaving L'Auberge, and I was still commuting back and forth every day. It was crazy.
Wow. So that was a choice. You chose to commute after a while.
Well, yeah, but I knew I wanted to like definitely get back down to the valley.
Yeah.
And from there, actually, from L'Auberge, I went into a different process. I actually went into teaching at the culinary school.
Okay.
Which was that to me is where I learned actually the most out of everything. It was crazy.
Interesting.
Wow. It was a neat, yeah, definitely unique experience. So
what did you do? Like, what did you teach specifically? Like a range of things, or?
yeah, they so basically the reason why I did that is well, my daughter was born in 2008.
Okay.
So I definitely wanted a little bit more of a break or a pause from the industry so I could spend more time with her. But it was also the whole thing. One of my mentor, Ivan Flowers, that I worked with at a different point of view, he also told me, he's like, to more efficiently, if you ever want to own your own restaurant, to more efficiently and effectively develop a crew faster, you should go teach for a couple of years. And it all made sense. I'm like, yeah. So in 2009, I knew I wanted to get back down to here. Le Cordon Bleu, which is where I went to school at Scottsdale Culinary too, but they got taken over by Le Cordon Bleu. They had a job opening for a chef instructor in the contemporary arts. I'm like, oh, that's easy. Contemporary food is kind of the style I like to do anyway. And so I got hired on, and at the moment, at that time, like I was very scared, like public speaking, like scared the hell out of me. But obviously, after teaching, you're like, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
So I got very used to the public speaking. But teaching culinary was like where I learned the most. Like I learned a lot more about why you do the things you do. I had more time to actually research why do you do these things. As opposed to like in a restaurant, you just get shit done and make sure it's fun. But I actually had the time now to focus, like, why do I do things the way I do? What, is there a more efficient way to do this? Is there a better way to do this? But by teaching, I actually taught myself more than anything. It was crazy. It was a neat experience. Like that to me was where I learned my style of plating designs to flavor. How do I mix, high-end dining to familiar flavors and just mash them together very easily. It was a neat process. So
you think that's a combo of I don't know, man. I'm a big advocate for experience plus the education aspect of it, right? And I think sometimes when we go from the traditional go right from high school to college, and you're learning these theories of business or whatever it is, like that. But once you get into it and you work it, like, oh shit, moment number 3 for Cory Oppold, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It truly was. And then I was definitely meant to, I love teaching. That to me is like, man, the connections you make, and they actually pay you to talk in front of people that actually want to listen to you. So it's kind of neat, so it's like a neat interaction between everyone where they want to be there and you want to be there. And it's a fun experience.
Yeah.
So the whole process of like teaching and learning is just, it's a neat thing to me. But that whole moment is when it all changed for me. It was just so unique.
Yeah.
And not only that, the connections I built with the students is like eventually when I went off onto the restaurants again, like a lot of my students became my sous chefs or cooks or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you had cream of the crop picking from everything. It was crazy.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's good networking opportunity. And yeah, I would feel like a lot of people would come to go to school here to actually then be working restaurants here as well, because it's such a great food scene.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
And I think Phoenix is like, we're getting bigger and bigger every day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And, especially with, Charlene winning the James Beard last year, she's opened this huge avenue to everything. I mean, even before that too, but I mean, like, definitely with the James Beard win finally in Arizona again, just huge thing. So it's just, the food scene here though, everyone has so many different great things to offer, and that's everyone has their amazing scopes and what they're focusing on, and there's so much talent here. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's a good community too. I mean, it seems like, I mean, from our experience, it's everybody's, really, it's a pretty chill vibe. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It is. It doesn't seem like a real like aggressive, like I don't know,
Yeah.
man. That's what draws us into it to want to cover the scene is because the people are awesome, man. Like
Yep.
it's really cool. And there's so much innovation and integration with local farms and some malt companies and grain. It's just a
Yep.
really cool thing to see it all come together.
Yeah. Everyone like, yeah, they always focus on they have a beautiful craft and they just do
Yeah.
it damn well.
Yeah.
And everyone, yeah, like you said, everyone's so damn nice. Everyone's trying to help everyone out somehow. Like, everyone's a team here in Arizona. That's what's cool about Arizona. So it's
That's what
awesome.
300 plus days of sunshine will do for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
A lot more smiling here than there is in Ohio. I'll tell you that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, Arizona. I guarantee you, like in 10 years, I think we're gonna dominate a lot of things. I believe.
Yeah. Yep. We've got some just natural. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm getting all excited. I'm like,
I
I
know,
need to
right?
cook it. Yeah. So where does Atlas come in then? Like where does that cross your path?
So Alice, so I from culinary school, I wanted to get back into, from teaching culinary school, I taught there for several years. I definitely obviously missed the restaurant industry, and I wanted to get back into that whole scope. And from there, I went from Binkley's to Tarbell's, and then then I was hired on as executive chef at Atlas Bistro in 2014. Atlas Bistro was always one of those things. I actually knew Todd Sawyer, the owner of Atlas, prior to even hiring, because I went to culinary school with his wife, and that's how we kind of knew each other. It was but it was one of those things where when I was asked, like it made total sense for me to want to go there, and uh, it was just one of those things too. It was a smaller environment. It was a multi-course, that's what I wanted. But I also wanted a smaller environment because I don't want a big staff. I want a smaller staff where there's less hands touching everything. I think that sometimes less hands, there's less room for error. It's kind of a sometimes more hands is a better opportunity, but sometimes less hands can be a better thing.
Yeah.
And it was just a neat environment, and it was just fun to like let your creativity go where first course pairs with lighter wine, second course goes into the gradual process of foods increases with the gradual process of the wine selection. And because Atlas Bistro is definitely a wine geek destination as well, so it made perfect sense.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun venture there for sure, and I'm still there. I decreased my time just a little bit because I'm also focusing on a side project called Simmer Down, just for a little
Another
bit.
great name. Dude,
Yeah.
you come up with all these names?
Yeah.
Ah, that's awesome, man. I'm
It's
impressed.
usually when I'm drunk too. That's what's crazy. Is usually
Everything, yeah.
I'm drunk and I'm like, oh my god, I got a great idea, and I write it down. And if it makes sense the next day when I'm hungover, it's a win. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
That's right.
So I'm like, all right,
Eric
cool.
does the exact same thing all the time, and then he'll bring the list to me and rattle through them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And if it eventually makes sense, you're like, oh shit, I'm on something.
yeah, exactly.
And it's usually just get drunk, most of the time.
Yeah,
So.
that's a no lose situation right there for sure.
No, it's awesome.
So what is Simmer Down?
So Simmer Down was definitely my approach to cope with the times of the pandemic. Obviously at Atlas, we're not a to-go restaurant. We're designed to be. But I came up with an idea of like, actually let me back up a little bit. I also do like a dining in home too, where I go to people's homes and I cook for them, and it's a separate thing called course.
Yeah.
But I do multiple courses in people's homes. But usually when I go to their homes, I never know what their kitchen looks like. Do they have 4 burners? Do they have 6 burners? Do they have no burners? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So usually I design a menu where it's like, hey, just in case, I can cook 6 vegetables separately in one pot and on one burner. So that whole mentality, which I do in sealed packages, where if I have roasted golden beets with butter, or if I have artichokes that are cooked in oil, I can cook them all in one pot on one burner. And so that whole mentality of how I approach that way of cooking for somebody at their home, I translate that into, that's an easy way for somebody to cook at home by themselves. So the whole simmer down process came around was went on a hike. Well, I wrote the idea down drunk. But then the next day to burn away that the steam from the drinking, I went on a hike, and when I was hiking, it's usually when I come up with a lot of ideas. Is like, how can this translate from them simmering food, giving it to them cold, where it's meant to be, they heat up the way they want to easily, when they want to. Because that's where I see where the problem is with a lot of to-go food is it's hot, and by the time you get it, it's like either soggy or mushy.
Yeah.
It just some to-go food just doesn't translate too well. And so the whole thought was like, how can I get it to them cold? Give it to them, they can cook it the way they want, easily, no mess, very simple. But cook 5 things in a pot of water, and that's how simmer down was approached. And also, it made sense with the whole pandemic where I looked up simmer down, and simmer down meant to remain calm in a state of turmoil. And I looked up turmoil just to make sure, and turmoil translated to a moment of uncertainty. So I'm like, shit, it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
So the whole thing came together, and I'm like, huh? And then, so I called the purveyors. I'm like, hey, I'm either buying a lot of food for nothing, I'm going to lose my ass, or it might be cool.
We
I don't
got
know.
something.
And then it turned out to be something cool.
Yeah.
Thank God. But it's been going about 6 months or 6 weeks now, and all to be honest, in about a couple hours we translated over to my website. Will be up, and then we'll have online ordering and delivery only.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Dude.
Pretty excited. Yeah, because now that Atlas is open, before they were just picking up at Atlas. They would they would message me their orders on Facebook or Instagram. I would just write down their orders. But now we got to partner up with a friend, Delandry, Family Foods. He already has a system. He's already a distribution place anyway, and he has a system of cooled vans. He has multiple of them. And he already has an online process for ordering and receiving the orders. So my website will link to his, and it's going to be a great process of, especially during the summer, of delivering food in Arizona. Like, he already has vans that are already cooled down to 21 just in case of the closing the door.
Yeah.
It's already a dialed system, so it actually goes live in about 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours.
Hell yeah! And so, well, when people are listening to this, they'll be able to go to it. So, what is the website?
Website will be simmerdownmeals.com.
Simmerdown.
Yep. So I was trying to get simmerdown.com, but somebody already got it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, whatever. But yeah, Simmer Down Meals. I'm like, yeah, that just makes more sense anyway. So that way people just know exactly it's about meals in the process. But right now, yeah, I'm gonna have 3 appetizers that are all cold that people, once they get the kits, they just assemble them. There's no cooking involved. There's 4 classic entrees. Every component simmered. They just plate. So it's usually, generally those are more braised items that, once they're in a pot or heating up, they get better as they sit. Things like coco vents, a short rib, to braised pork shoulder and salsa verde. So it's things like that. And then I also have another category of cooking kits where all the sides are simmered in the pouches, but the proteins they have to cook. So those are examples like, the burger for 2, like, we get great meat from like Lintz, which is also, a company from Chicago, not far from me, which is where I grew up. But also, using Chula seafood for their halibut. Also, I have some A5 Wagyu for the people that want to splurge a little bit more. But all the cooking kits are, the protein they have to cook. And on my website, though, I have a little drop-down menu where it says simmer times, and it'll give in-depth instructions. Just simmer in a pot, or if you have an immersion circulator at home, they can just plug it in at 145 and cook everything in a certain amount of time.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, something different, and something fun. And I also have 2 desserts on there too that everything's cold. They just plate. So you just get this little kit, plate it up.
Damn, that's my style, man. That's my style. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
And I think the whole process, the coolest thing about seeing it was the first time I did it is, the people on Instagram and Facebook plating it and then posting all their pictures. I'm like, man, it's not only is it, just it serves a purpose and keeps people safe, but it's fun for them.
Yeah.
You know, they get to take ownership of the dish then, and then they get to play it the way they want.
Yeah.
That's been the most gratifying process is, you know, seeing how does somebody translate your ideas onto a plate has been the neatest thing.
Yeah.
So it's been cool. It's been
Well,
really, really cool.
what a cool experience for them too, as far as like it's almost like kind of like, hell, hey, put on this virtual reality mask and you can act like you're, you know, Shaquille O'Neal, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It makes total sense. I mean, and it really does. And it's fun. And like, to be honest, is like, I never in a million years thought I would be doing it, but it took, you know, something as unfortunate as a virus to make you think differently.
Yeah.
You have to think differently. I mean, I encourage everyone to keep thinking positively, you know, that we're going to go into, you know, everything's going to turn back around. But at the same time, we got to keep it in our back of our minds. What if something doesn't go right? We need to start building something that can sustain us into the future.
Yeah.
So that simmer down was definitely my thing that hopefully it works.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think something like that could be, I mean, it could be replicated on a spectrum, right?
Yep.
Dude, I would love to have some chili cheese dogs delivered to me, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But
And that's a good idea too.
yeah.
I can even take that and make, you know, brats out of duck and then give you like, you know, different, like, you know, high end, like, you know, is that you can just take it from so many different avenues
Yeah.
of anything. So it's a neat process, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of delivering food.
So let me ask you this, Cory. So I know you said you're a big fan of science. You know, the technical aspect of cooking is what you're really into, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that mean, right? Because I geek out on the food stuff, not as much as Luke. Luke really goes crazy. He loves it, man. But just the science on you know, chemical reactions and things like that really fascinates me. So for
Mm-hmm.
you, what does that do?
Back in when I was teaching at the school in 2009, or I started there, like that's when I really started diving pretty hardcore into what we know as molecular gastronomy. And that's where I like started, you know, buying these different they're called hydrocolloids, you know, buying the different forms of them in their powdered form and then messing with them and, you know, testing them out and seeing you know, what really works, what's neat, what's cool, you know, and then really seeing how they improve, you know, not only the appearance of a sauce but even the taste and the mouthfeel of the sauce. So, you know, back then when it was new and brand new, like everyone's like, oh, you know, putting bubbles on plates and everything. You know, it kind of blew up into a crazy thing where molecular is all about the art, you know, just the show of it,
Yeah.
and not so much about the practicality of it. But eventually, you know, I was learning a lot about it back then. But now, as you know, time kind of slowly changes. The style of food, we're still using these hydrocolloids, but in a certain form to make a dish better. It's not to make it look different or weird anymore. Now it's about making it completely just improving the mouthfeel, you know, making sure the sauce doesn't break, making sure these, you know, when you put a beet puree on a plate, it doesn't bleed out or anything like that. So now we're using these science aspects of, and a lot of these things they're all completely natural. I mean, like xanthan gum is probably one of the biggest things we use. It's a bacterium from cabbage is all it is. So everything's natural, but it's just the way we use these things, and that to me is like it's all about how do you improve the dish, and that's why like science you have to, and like the use of them like immersion circulators, um, it's cooking with science, and like it's to me it's neat. I mean, you still have to learn the fundamentals of cooking this way,
Yeah.
but and you know cooking with a machine though after you learn those, uh, it's just it improves so much. It's just so crazy. It's to me, I mean, science, math, and art. It's just the way of the world.
Yeah.
It really is.
Do you think that's what, because I read something about you, you said you have food ADD, is that right? Where you can't,
Oh, I
you
do.
get bored by food dishes.
I
So,
truly do. It's crazy. Like
so is that how you combat it with the experiment side of
yeah. Well, the
science?
way I combat the food AD is like I just change the menu a lot, you know. And I get
Yeah.
really. It was hard for me. Like when I think a dish, like I'll write a dish idea, and usually I'll sketch it first, and then it'll eventually translate to the plate. And then I'll take a picture of it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But then a week later, I'm like, oh shit, this sucks. Same thing. It's the same exact thing as what I came up with a week ago.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but that, I mean, it's good. I mean, to me, that's a good thing, you know, because you want to keep going. You want to keep something, keep turning. But it's definitely one of those things, and that's why I love vegetables so much, because they force you to change. You're always going to have beef, strip loin to make your New York steaks on your menu, but you're not always going to have great asparagus, or you're not always going to have great chestnuts or butternut squash. So that's why, like, to me, my focus is always going to be vegetables. And Mother Nature itself, she tells you exactly you need to change your menu.
Yeah.
But it's also the food ADD thing. Like you just want to keep seeing what are you capable of doing? What is the next thing? So that's always been like the food ADD thing. It's neat.
But I think that spawns innovation, right? Like, as if it
does.
That's why
it truly does.
Yeah, at least I hope, because that's how I am. I got ADD. I'm all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I hope.
And you have to.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Have you hit a point where you've shifted kind of away from learning a bunch of new techniques? It seems like you're at a point where you're more applying them to different foods and kind of, looking for new ways to incorporate them as opposed to learning new techniques. Would you say that's the point you've reached?
Yeah. Well, with the simmer down thing, I'm the menu's going to change a lot less because I want this to be something that's, I'm always going to have those staple items on there that people have been buying for the past 6 weeks that, have really come to love and enjoyed. I'm going to keep those on there. But there's always going to be a couple items on that list that I'm going to keep changing it in or changing as we go. As far as but I want to keep evolving myself, because I need to keep teaching myself as well and teaching others around me. So that's where Atlas comes in too. On the weekends, I'm always going to be there on the weekends for right now. Hopefully with the virus, slowly dies away and there's a vaccination, I can go there all the time. But I just want to make sure that my guys, my cooks, are always there all the time, so they get the hours that they need. So that's kind of why the way I pivoted away from Atlas for a little bit. But Atlas is always going to be there for me to keep teaching myself, keep creating something completely different. Hopefully, I'm definitely working on my own thoughts on a restaurant as well. And actually, I was very close. Actually, a month before the virus hit, there was an investment meeting, and fortunately, it did not pan out. For the sake of, if it did pan out, it would have been a complete mess. But I'm hoping eventually the restaurant system gets back to that. We have a vaccination for this. People are more gung-ho to go back out, though, and life continues on the way it was before. And then once that happens, then the next adventure the next adventure will start. So I will always have the next step will always be my heart is still always in fine dining and restaurants. But this simmer down thing has taken over quite a bit of my 6 weeks of my life, because I need to mold it the way it needs to go, and then then send it off on its way, and then hopefully it just continues to work. But with the whole ADD thing of wanting to create something else, hopefully soon I can have my own little thing. But for right now, I'm definitely still at Atlas Bistro.
So as far as the ADD goes, how did you feel when you opened the baskets on Chopped? Like, when you get to see it?
Oh my God. See, that was crazy. Like, that moment, oh man, that's where I'm like, oh, okay. But it's like when you open some of these things, you have to look at it. You can't overanalyze it. Like, you look at the first basket, I believe it was like cauliflower, and there's a pea popsicle or something like that, and then there was something else, Swiss chard and stuff like that. But you have to look at the ingredients. First of all, they're just vegetables. Yeah. The popsicle itself is just a frozen pureed peas. So it's like you just kind of have to break down these ingredients. Like, what are they really? Yeah. They're not so overly complex. They're exactly specifically this, but it's like you can build a dish around the idea of what it actually is. But being on Chopped, oh my God, that experience is like something. I don't know, it was a great experience, but it's like something I never want to do again.
You're not the first person that said that. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's just, it's just not me in to begin with, because it's like
Yeah.
you have 20 minutes to do a dish. You have 10 minutes. It takes me 6 hours to roast a freaking tomato, properly. And I'm like, that's just not my style. But it's like,
Yeah.
it was a great experience though. It really was.
How did it happen? Like, so how do you, because I'm sure you don't just like, oh yeah, take the elevator onto the second floor and you make it to the third floor and oh shit, I guess I was chopped. Yeah.
Oh, pivot on top. No, it was actually kind of weird. They actually, Scott Conan, he opened a restaurant more back on what was that 2015, I believe it was.
Okay. Yeah.
But they called the restaurant. So with him being a judge always on Chopped, I think he's the one that influenced Chopped where the Food Network say, hey, we need to take a look at Arizona, specifically the Valley. And because before Phoenix, Arizona was never on the map to be on Chopped.
Well, it was more of a, and sorry to interrupt, but wasn't Phoenix kind of known for being like a test subject for like national chains because of like, like the diversity of the population, like big places like, like Whataburgers and things like that would do research here because it was a mix of people from all around the country.
Yep, exactly.
I might have just made that up, but
no. Yeah, it's very true though. We're such a melting pot. It's, you talk to, I mean, it seems like a lot more people though are from the Midwest here is what it seems like. There's so many from the Midwest. But they called the scouts for Chops, called the restaurant one day. And ironically, I'm the one that answered the phone, which I don't answer the phone there because it was an off day or something like that. But they asked, and I'm like, why not? And so I think that was like May of like 2016 or something like that. But then it took like a very, a long time of like the interview process, all the way till like, probably July of 2016. So, several months of interviewing. And then they actually flew out, I believe it was November of 2016 to do like they kind of filmed that like little beginning thing on Chopped.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The intro, I guess you'd say, but it takes like, it's like a whole day of your time, and they shortened it down to like 5 seconds. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell?
I could have knocked that out in 10 minutes if you had told me what to do. Yeah.
It was crazy. But it was like, oh my God. But then, so that was November. But then I don't think I flew out until like January. Then I flew out in January of 2017. I competed. But then it didn't air until May.
Dude, that's
2018. It was a year and a half later. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Did you know you were going to be on there with another Arizona chef?
No. Yeah, as soon as they had us all meet, so we all flew in. We had a text when we landed, so just to make sure they have backups just in case somebody gets, like their flight gets delayed or whatever. Yeah. They have people there just to be on like standby. But as soon as we all met at a McDonald's, which is where they have you meet. It's so weird.
That's what Nick, was it Nick that told us? Nick LaRosa?
Yes.
Yeah. They have you meet at McDonald's. It's like, come on, man. Just pick something else at least.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everyone knows the Golden Arches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easy to find.
But we all met there, and then I knew Tamara by looking at her. I'm like, okay, I kind of know you, but we didn't know exactly for sure what it was. And but yeah, so we met each other full on right there.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. Definitely crazy.
And then that's a long day too, right? Like that's you got people yelling at you, cameras in your face, and real chill experience from what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. We met at 6 a.m, and then I think I left there at 10 at night.
So, dude, they just take you right there. There's no like, hey, let's drop you off your hotel. They're like, throw your shit in the back, get in.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like they throw a bag over your freaking head, throw you in the thing, dude. Yeah. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is so real.
Yeah.
And then then I don't know. It was crazy.
The bag comes off, and all of a sudden, Guy Fieri's like a foot away from your face.
Like, oh shit! Yeah. I knew it,
dude. We need to do an Arizona version where we do that. We actually kidnap, like on what was it, Old School? Remember they kidnap all the guys?
Yeah. My boy Blue.
Dude, what's he say? Remember he yells to the wife. He's like, "Don't say a word, or we'll kill him." Just kidding. We'll have him back after dinner.
That movie's amazing.
Oh, dude, it's one of my favorites. I just started watching Dumb and Dumber with my 8-year-old, so I think she's old enough to watch most parts. There's a couple parts.
Favorite movies.
Yeah, dude, so many quotes. Like, I say at least 2 things a day that's from Dumb and Dumber, at least.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I mean, but like, yeah, with old school though, like Will Ferrell is like oh my God. If you don't like Will Ferrell, you're just either uneducated or you're just an asshole. It's one or the other. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
Like,
either way, I don't want to hang out with you if that's the case.
Yeah. How do you not like Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
He's like one of my, he's that one person I want to have drinks with. That's for
Yeah. Yeah, dude. He'd be great. I bet you, he'd be a good one to hang out with. So you guys are competing, you win. Mm-hmm. How does that change things for you? Like, I mean, obviously there's the financial aspect of it. You win the money, but where does that shift your career?
It kind of shifted. It was just like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely didn't expect to win at all. But it was like, definitely an eye-opening thing where it's like, okay, this is neat, and it definitely wasn't my style of cookery where it's like, a raw ingredient and you have to have it on the plate in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And, hopefully that's not anyone's way. But it was just definitely a unique experience. But eventually, it aired in May of 2018. And then once it aired, like, that kind of opened up some doors and avenues to a whole bunch of different things, which was kind of cool. And, one of them being Plate and Pour, which was a great experience to be on. That was so much fun. Their crew is beyond professional.
Is that Mark Tarbell and his folks? Yeah, those guys are great.
They're great. And Rebecca. But they're just great, insanely great people. But it definitely opened the doors of like, exposure and, just it was fun to showcase like what you've been doing in the Valley for years and then finally, put it out there to the public a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. So.
Well, I think too with your, like you were saying, like that's not your style, right? So for you to go in and do that style and win, that's got to feel pretty badass.
Yeah, It definitely felt good too.
Yeah,
and like at the end, I hugged Martha Stewart. That was awesome. and what was awesome is I hugged her like 2 seconds too long, so it was a little bit uncomfortable for her, not for me. You know what I mean? So just to see what the reaction was. But it was kind of cool. She was awesome. She was super cool.
Yeah,
super cool person. So.
Dude, I saw something the other day. It actually was a really good point. I don't know the dude's name. Luke, you might know the rapper who's ratting everybody out, right? I saw a meme. What was it?
I said to not be mentioned.
Yeah.
I'll leave the name out.
Yeah. But then they're like, hey, Martha Student didn't snitch on anybody. She did her time like a G,
Yep. She made some linens for her bedspread in jail. That was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. This is how you make toilet wine. Yeah.
No, she's actually super cool. I didn't really get to meet her. I got to, talk with her, but cool person as far as I can gather. So.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So what's next for you? Like what's on the horizon? I mean, I know it's unpredictable right now, but
yeah, it's definitely unpredictable. I mean, I've always, I definitely want to keep Simmer Down going because I think that's gonna be just a safe avenue, just for the public. You know what I mean? You just order food and it's cool prepared food and you make it when you want to. So I'm definitely going to continue Simmer Down. I'm definitely going to continue doing Atlas for a little bit, for a little while. I want to keep doing Course, which is, the in-home dining for a while because people, especially right now, people are like really into that because, they don't want to go out still, but they still want to experience, these cool moments that you're supposed to celebrate, like, birthdays, engagements, or anniversaries. They're still doing I've been doing a lot of those lately, actually. So I still want to do that. Hopefully Morning Wood can pick back up, once we get a nice cool Sunday where everyone feels comfortable getting back together, and I'll pair up with another restaurant to do that. But I think the next step is definitely formulating my own fine dining, super small place. Nice. I want just like a nice 12-top bar of where, me and the cook serve. One person walks around and pours you champagne or wine, and super small, and just keep it small and intimate and just make cool ass food.
Yeah.
I think that's the next step. So
love it, man. Love it. Yeah. Well, you're on the right path, buddy. So
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Luke, was there anything else? I think we covered everything with Cory.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. dude.
You guys are so awesome, man. It was a pleasure. This is fun.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to actually being able to come and see people and shake hands and eat food.
Yeah, definitely. And told that you can order simmer down. So.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So where can people find you on social media around the world?
Yeah, so on social media, I definitely just on Facebook I have Chef Cory or just Cory Oppold, and then Simmer Down, and I also have Course on Facebook. Same thing on Instagram, but I believe on Instagram it's Chef Cory Oppold.
Okay.
But all the other things are on there, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep plugging away and just keep doing stupid shit. Yeah. That's what I do. It's just, to me, it's fun. Just like just have ideas and just do ideas. Why not? Who cares?
Yeah, that's
people
right.
are either gonna enjoy it or they don't. And if at least as long as you enjoyed it, it's kind of fun.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. I love that mindset, man. I love it.
Why not?
All right. Cory, thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it.
Gentlemen, pleasure so much. Thank you. I appreciate it, and be safe for sure.
You too, man.
Thank you.
Later.
Well, there you have it, guys. Chef Cory Oppold of Atlas Bistro in the Valley here. Make sure you visit Atlas Bistro and follow Chef Cory Oppold on social media. Also, subscribe to a Taste of AZ podcast, like the video below, and check out our website at tasteofaz.com. Cheers.